So yesterday, what we talked about was sort of a summary of taxonomy, classification. We named those taxonomic groups. We talked about various ways that humans and other things are classified. Yeah, that's okay. We'll write it down in a minute. And so what we're going to talk about now is a little bit about what a species is, because we've been talking about these classification systems. And we're going to talk about what does it mean if something is a certain species. And then we'll talk about hybrid. And finally, we'll finish up talking about a tool scientists sometimes use called the dichotomous key. All right. So first of all, a species. So we are all the same species, obviously. Humans, Homo sapiens, that's one single species. Yesterday we talked a little bit about the trees out there. That's Betula papyrifera. That's a species of tree. Bless you. If we think about a bear, Ursus arctos, that's one species. Now, why is Ursus, the polar bear, a different species than the panda bear? So what makes them two different species? I mean, they look pretty similar. They have a lot of similar characteristics, but they're not the same species. Do you know why they're two separate species, Kendall?
They're not the same animal?
Well, but
Like, they're different.
they have differences, yes, Natalie?
Their genes.
It has to do with their genes. We consider things different species if they cannot reproduce together. That's sort of the biological definition of a species. A species is a group of organisms, a group of individuals that can interbreed, so can mate and produce offspring that are fertile. That's the definition of a species. A group, and the members can interbreed. So if you think about another example, is a golden retriever and a poodle, are they the same species?
No.
No? They're two different species?
Yes, and
Well, there's only one answer.
yes.
Or a chihuahua and a beagle. Are they the same species or different species? Okay. Yes. They are the same species. They're different breeds, but all dogs are the same species. And we know that because dogs of different breeds can mate with each other and produce offspring, like a golden doodle is a golden retriever mixed with a poodle, and they can have puppies that are still dogs, and they are a mix of those two. So yeah, dogs are all the same species. Okay. Kendall?
I have a question. I went to the zoo one time, and there was this animal, and it was a mix between like a horse and a zebra.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that right now. So most of the time in nature, two different species never would breed together. They would never mate with each other. They would mate only with their own species. But there are certain situations when two separate but very closely related species could breed with each other and produce offspring. We call those offspring hybrids. So I know you don't have this word, but write down the definition of a hybrid. It's an offspring that's produced by two different species.
Like a giraffe and a dolphin? Well, that's
So they have to be very, very closely related. That's the key thing here. And the other thing is when two species interbreed and produce a hybrid offspring, usually their offspring can't reproduce. Okay, they're infertile. So the most common example that's very common is when a male donkey, its scientific name, Equus asinus, is mated with a female horse, Equus caballus. They form an offspring, looks like this, and it's a common animal, especially on farms and used for work. Do you know what it's called?
mule.
A mule.
But I have one question.
Hold on one second. So a mule is a hybrid. It's only produced when we have a male donkey and a female horse that mate with each other. Again, they do this on a farm when they're put together in certain situations. They produce a mule. Now mules can't mate. They can't reproduce on their own. They're infertile. So the only way to get new mules is to make more donkeys and horses. And mules are a farm animal. They are pretty big. They're strong. For this, like a mule and an equal-sized horse, the mule can be stronger, can carry more, can work longer, eats less. So they have a lot of advantages in agriculture, which is why mules have been produced for a long, long time. Okay, you have some questions. Matt?
Why does it say Jack and Mare?
Because they have like, sort of like a cow is actually a female cattle and a bull is a male. So sometimes they have different words for the male and female versions. So that's just why they say that.
I have a
Natalie?
question.
Yes.
If the male donkey was a girl and the female horse was a boy, could they like mate and make a mule?
Yeah, well, they call it something different, but pretty much. They call it a hinny, and it doesn't. They don't use that as often, but yes, sometimes the opposite. It could be a female donkey and a male horse, but it's not as common
So how come we were male donkey?
because it usually is. Mules are produced by male donkeys and female horses. Haley?
Are they the same thing as mules, or like why aren't they?
The hinny?
Yeah.
Yeah, similar to a mule. James?
Are mules what they use to like pull the
Yep.
the horse and donkey?
Yeah, sometimes they're used as like plow animals or pack animals in lots of parts of the world because they're strong and can carry. You know, these hybrids, we're going to talk about some others. Often a hybrid is bigger and stronger than either of the original parents. Something called hybrid vigor. Here's another example. This is when a false killer whale, okay, and a bottlenose dolphin mate in an aquarium probably. They produce an animal called a wolfen.
I've never heard of that.
Many hybrids are named by the male type of animal as the first part of their name, and the female part of the animal is their second part of their name. You've heard of this one probably if you ever watched that movie Napoleon Dynamite. Ever seen that movie? What's his favorite animal?
Liger.
A liger. A liger's a real animal.
I actually just said that.
It's a hybrid, a male lion that is mated with a female tiger. So again, look at their scientific names. Panthera leo, Panthera tigris. What does that tell us about them?
Oh, like they're from the same genus.
Yeah, they're in the same genus, Panthera. They're different species, but they're very closely related. And they form a liger.
Isn't that just a snow leopard though?
No, that's a liger.
Do they look the same as snow leopard?
No, so, I mean, their coloring varies. And the color doesn't show up well, but no, they're sort of have some brown in there.
Wait.
Male zebra, Equus zebra, mated with a female horse, Equus caballus, produces a zorse. A zorse is, has like sort of fainter stripes. Sometimes the stripes are only in the back portion of the animal, but that's a hybrid. So a liger, a zorse, a wolf, and a mule, they can't mate on their own. They can't reproduce. They're infertile.
Wait, how come they are?
It has to do with the number of chromosomes. Because one of the things that distinguishes two different species is their number of chromosomes. Okay? And because when they reproduce, chromosomes have to combine in certain ways, the hybrids end up with a wrong number of chromosomes. This is a,
Like if it was a girl and then there was a boy with extra chromosomes, they still couldn't mate.
no. This is a polar bear in the front, and this is a grizzly bear in the back, and this is a growler bear. It's a grizzly polar bear hybrid.
Huge.
If you remember from the scientific names of a grizzly and polar bear, they're all both in the genus Ursus. They're both very closely related.
The one bear is huge.
Yeah, again, that's the hybrid, often much larger than either of the parents. This is a Savannah cat. It's a hybrid between a domestic cat, just a house cat, and a serval, which is a wild cat. This is a sheep goat. It is a hybrid between a sheep and a goat. This is a common hybrid that's used in agriculture. It's really big, obviously. It's a cross between two agriculture animals. You know what it is?
A bull and a cow.
Not quite, because bulls and cows are one species. They're both cattle. Bulls are male, cows are female. But it is a cow and what? A bison. It's called a beefalo. And it's really big, so obviously it has lots of meat, so it's sometimes used in agriculture.
Okay, I have a question. How come they're called hybrids when the regular animals like polar bear, they are made from two different species? They're like all made from two different species.
Because that's the definition of a hybrid. It's the offspring of two different species. A hybrid has to come from two different species parents. All right. This is
It's a zebra.
a zebra and
A donkey. A mule.
what's that? Which one? Mule or donkey? Donkey. This is a cross between a donkey and a and a
That's what I thought.
It looks like small.
Wait, but the
Killer
cat
bee.
has two different, like,
There's
some
some
wild
It
donkeys.
looks like
yeah.
Killer weed.
No, it's not a wild. No, different species. Not a wild. I mean, a wild, different species of, you know, like a tiger's a cat, the lions and the cat.
Yeah, but aren't they the
Can I
same
get
species?
you
Have
some
some
offspring?
No. All right, this is a killer bee crossed with an African bee.
Can they kill someone?
It's a hybrid. This is
Oh,
a
I love him. I want to
jaguar lion cross. Very little thing.
Oh, I would love to touch them.
I would train it to be.
All right, guys. Oh, really?
Oh my god.
Wait. All right, listen. Hold on. Natalie, why are you saying that? Guys, you're correct. Why did you say that immediately?
A shark can't breathe.
Okay, why?
Like air.
This gets into why some things can form hybrids. Why, Kendall?
Okay, because they're not close enough related, and then they don't have the same characteristics.
Yeah.
The
Guys, so
Are these real?
no, so that's what Natalie's just saying. No, and the reason you know that they're not real is because these are from completely unrelated, unrelated species that would never form a hybrid. In order to form a hybrid, they must be very, very closely related, usually in the exact same genus. And these things are all made up. People sometimes make up like fake pictures and like, yeah, these are impossible hybrids.
Alright, I just want to touch that penguin. I do not want to get it.
All right, James, be quiet.
Okay.
She showed you that picture?
My sister shows me that picture because my name's Soraya, and she always makes fun of me and says my name is Sharkaraya, so every time she shows me that picture, I get so mad.
All right, so that's all we need to say here about hybrids and species. Our last topic in this section is about a tool that scientists sometimes use. It's called a dichotomous key. And a dichotomous key is a set of written steps that you can follow that can help you to identify some unknown species. For example, if somebody had an insect that they showed you, you had a picture, you had it, you could, and you didn't know what it was, you can take a dichotomous key for insects, and you would follow the instructions on the key, look at the insect, and answer some questions, and it would guide you as to what type of insect that is. It helped you identify the species. And so when I was in college, I took a lot of lab-based science courses in ecology, and so these are some of the books I used in college. And these are dichotomous keys, most of them. So this is one. This is a key to fruit and twigs. So if you grabbed like a twig out of your backyard, brought it into school, and you followed through the instructions in this key, it would eventually tell you what type of tree that twig came from.
Can we do that?
Okay? So for example, the first one is says this is for fruits. Let me find the twig one. And it just asks you a bunch of questions. So the first one to identify the twig is, if I can find it. Are the leaf scars on the twig opposite or are they alternate? So you look at the twig, you see where the leaves were attached. If they were opposite or alternating with each other, then you would follow the correct steps, and eventually this would tell you what type of tree it came from. This is one I used in my botany class. This is Manual of Vascular Plants of Northeast United States and Adjacent Canada, 2nd edition. This is a huge book, obviously. If you look, the writing is super small. This is a key that you can use to identify any plant. You take a plant out of the ground, you found a plant growing around your house, brought it in, follow a set of steps, and you can identify what type of plant that is. This one is one I had to use in my ichthyology class. That is the study of fish. This is a guide to inland fishes of New York State. And so this whole book's dedicated only to fish in New York State, and it has in it a key that you can follow, and you look at the fish you have, you say, okay, does it have a dorsal fin that's short or a dorsal fin that's long, and you just sort of follow the steps, and eventually it tells you the species of fish that you have. So that's what a dichotomous key is. Basically, it's just a set of steps that helps you to identify an unknown species. Now we're gonna practice some pretty simple ones. We're not going to use any that are so complex. You could just look at these to get an idea what they look like. We're going to use kind of simplified examples for all of our purposes. But the simplified example works the same way that these ones I'm passing around works. Sorry, you have a question?
Okay, we keep talking about how like college and stuff. But like, wasn't that like when you had like dinosaurs?
Yeah, I had identified dinosaurs like as they were running by me when I was in college. And I used the dichotomous key to do that. Yeah. All right, so let's see how this dichotomous key works. So let's say we didn't know what animal this was. I know that y'all know what this is, but let's say we didn't. And we're looking at this animal. This key that we have there would help us figure out what it is. And what you do in a dichotomous key, it's a series of two statements that you just follow and do what they say. So first, you look at this animal. All right, are tentacles present or absent? Present. There are tentacles present, so this tells us, all right, we need to go to statements 2. All right, then we look at 2. Does it have 8 tentacles or more than 8? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 tentacles, it tells us this is an octopus. If I look at this creature, again, I do the same. I go back to the beginning. Tentacles present or absent? Absent. Doesn't have tentacles. So we go to 4 now. Does it have a pair of giant claws or does it have a pink body? Pink body. This is a shrimp. Yes, that's what an actual shrimp looks like before it's prepared for you to eat.
Wait, what does go to 3 mean?
What?
What does go to 3?
It means you go to the 3rd set of statements. So let's look at this. All right? Tentacles present or absent? Tentacles present or absent?
Absent.
Absent. Those are not tentacles. So we go to 4. Does it have a pair of giant claws? Yes? This is a crab. Last one. Tentacles present or absent?
Yes.
Yes, present. I go to 2. Does it have 8 tentacles or more than 8? More than 8. I go to 3. Are the tentacles hanging down or are they upright? They're upright. Upright. And so this is a synonym. So following these steps allows us to identify an unknown species. Let's look at one more example. These are 4 types of birds, and with them is a key to help you identify them. So let's start with this one. We read the instructions. Statement 1. Is the beak very thin? The upper beak is larger than the bottom? Or is the beak relatively heavy and the top and bottom are about equal size?
Wait, which one are we trying to
This one. Oh, What'd you say?
I say that one's like not even the actual.
Beak. Yes. The beak is relatively heavy. Top and bottom are about equal. So again, we follow. It says go to set 2.
Wait, do we like circle this or?
No, because you're gonna have to use it. So next, 2. Is the lower beak smaller than the top beak? Or is the lower beak as large or larger?
B.
B. Large or larger. I go to set 3.
But they're all finches.
Does the lower, that's okay, because there's different types of finches. Does the lower edge of the upper beak have a distinct bend in it? Look at there. At the end, yes, it bends down. Yes, this is a camarynchus.
Do we write that?
Yes, that's a camarynchus finch. So we used our key to identify this unknown species. Let's look at this one. Is the beak very thin upper, much larger than the smaller, or about equal in size? About equal in size. Let's go to set 2. Is the lower beak smaller than the top beak? Yes. That's Geospiza. Let's look at this finch. Is the beak very thin? And upper beak much larger than the bottom? Or is it heavy, top and bottom equal? Top and bottom equal. So I go to set 2. Is the lower beak smaller than the top beak or larger? Or
Both the same.
is as large? So we go to set 3. Is the lower edge of the upper beak have a distinct bend or is it mostly flat?
Mostly black.
Mostly flat. That is a Planospiza finch. And then finally, here if we do this last finch, is the beak thin, upper beak much larger than the bottom?
Yeah.
It is. It's a Certhidia finch. So again, even if you know nothing about finches and have never seen them before, you could still identify them based on this taxonomic key, this dichotomous key. All right. Now, we're going to do one more as practice. We're going to call these creatures, even though they may look familiar to you,
It's a gremlin.
we're going to call them norms. Because if we call them something else, it may be a copyright violation. So these are going to be norms.
Because you're
Right. We're in
videotaping us.
school.
What's that?
We can't even say it.
So,
Is it on your YouTube channel?
these norns belong to the genus Norno, and there are 8 different species of these organisms. And this dichotomous key can be used to identify them. So let's start with this one and look at it.
Has hair.
You already have it, but I want to trace how we identify it. So first off, you look at set A. Does it have pointed ears or rounded ears? Pointed. So we follow it across. We go to 3. Do the ears point up and straight to the side, or straight to the side, or do they point down?
Straight to the side.
Straight to the side, I go to 5. Is it engaging in waving behavior? Is it waving?
No, it's not.
No. Does not engage with, I go to 6. Does it have hair on its head?
No.
That's what this
Yeah.
white stuff is, hair.
I thought we were doing other
So yes, and that is Norno is its genus. Bradleyus is the name of its species. So we use this dichotomous key to identify the scientific name of that norm.
I did this before with fish.
Oh yes. All right, so what I want you to do in the time we have left is finish finding out the name of each of these other species by using that dichotomous key. No, I want
Does the second one like consider round ears or pointed?
pointed.
Could you tell me if they had hair or not? 'Cause I can't
The
tell.
white on top is hair, like hair, hair, hair.
Wait, could you just like, I really know they look like they all have hair.
No, those ones.
Are these ears going down?
All right, so go ahead and
Wait, so only the left ones have hair? I mean the right ones?
the ones that have white on the top of their head have hair.